everybody, welcome to Wild Boy Movies, the place to talk movies. And today, we're going to be reviewing Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, the third episode of the Skywalker Saga. Right now I'm going to have some information up on screen for you to read, like director, runtime, and PAA rating. All of that will be up on screen for you to read right now. But be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below your thoughts on Revenge of the Sith. But without further ado, let's get right in to the pros. Alright, I want to go ahead and start off that this is essentially the end of the prequel trilogy. Revenge of the Sith was the final film release in the era where George Lucas made the prequel movies, and I feel like as the ending to a prequel trilogy, I think it was done pretty well, and I actually do think that it had a lot of cool things where they had some things that were set up that would be paid off in A New Hope, episode 4, because yeah, we got episode 4 first before episode 3. It was kind of weird. But I do like how they had some things like Obi-Wan getting Anakin's lightsaber after the duel and the babies for Padme being delivered to like different guardian figures. I felt like that was a good way to set up how we get to the point where we were at the beginning of A New Hope, and that was just kind of cool that they were able to do that in the ending of like the prequel trilogy. I also feel like that the CGI in this movie was also really good, and that you gotta take into account that this movie came out in 2005, and the CGI that they were able to do in 2005 was pretty cool because yeah, there are a lot of great looking sequences in this movie, like during the opening space battle or the battle in Mustafar. They just look so cool because the CGI was just so well done, and it just confuses me how we kind of like degraded in like the most recent years, like The Flash, where The Flash had bad CGI while Revenge of the Sith had some really cool looking CGI effects in there, and I just like that for the time it just looked like that it was more like supposed to be like in like the mid or late 2010s rather than the mid 2000s, which that was just really cool, and especially cool to see it on the big screen because yeah, I did not exist in 2005, but I did happen to see this movie during the 20th anniversary re-release, and yeah, it was just cool to see that and the cool effects from like the 2000s on the big screen. I also feel like that this has to be the one Star Wars movie that is the most relevant in our modern era, because this film does deal with some political corruption in the form of Palpatine / Darth Sidious, and yeah, a lot of people could be like, that's sort of like a certain political figure in our modern era, and yeah, I just felt like that this movie was insanely relevant towards our time period. And since we were talking about the Palpatine stuff, I do like how Palpatine's plan in here was to like manipulate Anakin Skywalker into going to the dark side. Like, I thought it was pretty cool, and I know there was like theories for like Anakin being created by Darth Plagueis and that whole thing. I heard of the theory, but I'm not sure if that was ever confirmed in the Star Wars canon. But I do like how Palpatine was basically using like these visions of the future to convince Anakin to go to the dark side so that Palpatine can help save Padme's life, when in reality it was ultimately Anakin who ended up killing Padme, and it was just all a trick for Palpatine to turn a Jedi towards the dark side. Also, I gotta go ahead and say the memes in here were pretty good. Like, you got a lot of great quotable lines like Obi-Wan saying hello there, or the high ground, or execute Order 66, or do it, and it was just a lot of memeable lines that have become memes nowadays. But I was kind of disappointed how my theater during the 20th anniversary re-release didn't really applaud much to those meme-worthy lines, unlike what we had with like Chicken Jockey or Flint and Steel in like the Minecraft movie. But I still like how they had like lines in here that weren't supposed to be memes but ended up becoming memes, and that just kind of made the movie a bit for me. I also thought the casting here was pretty good. You got Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, who I thought did a good job. Frank Oz as Yoda, which Yoda has kind of been like one of my favorites in terms of like the Jedi and Star Wars characters. You also got Ian McShane as Emperor Palpatine slash Darth Sidious. And I thought he was kind of like a good like villain in here, like turning Anakin to the dark side, and his overall plot in like ruling the galaxy and being like the Sith Lord. But I do gotta say, Hayden Christensen has gotta be like the best actor in this movie, because I felt like that he did a great job as like the character of Anakin Skywalker, and his progression from being more and more evil and turning towards the dark side, and how he eventually became the famous villain Darth Vader that we all knew from the prequel trilogy. Like Hayden Christensen is like the MVP of Revenge of the Sith, and he's kind of like become the face of Revenge of the Sith. I mean, even the theatrical re-release of the movie, there's like this opening that has a thank you for going to see this movie in theaters, and it was Hayden Christensen giving that. Like, that's how big he became a big face of the prequel trilogy because of this movie, at least for my opinion. The score in here is also another thing I gotta praise for, because John Williams did a great job with that score in the movie, and that's obviously to be expected because he has made such iconic music in the Star Wars franchise, whether that be the iconic opening, the Force theme, but he does a lot of great tracks in here. Like one particular one is whenever Order 66 is happening and all the Jedi are being killed, the moment when Yoda realizes they're Jedi dying all across the galaxy, that particular moment in the score was just so good. Like it amplified the moment for me, and the Order 66 sequence, and especially again hearing that on the big screen and in theaters was just so cool. And also you got that battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan. That score in there was also really good. And that brings me to the biggest pro I can give this movie, the action sequences, because I felt like that this has gotta be like some of the coolest fight sequences in any of the Star Wars movies. Like, you got the opening space battle scene, which was pretty cool, and you also got like a battle between droids and Wookiees, which was also pretty cool, even though we didn't see a lot of it. But the lightsaber duels in here were the best parts of like the movie. Like, you had the lightsaber duel between Anakin and Count Dooku. You also had the lightsaber duel between General Grievous and Obi-Wan, which was really cool, especially since I think General Grievous is a pretty cool character, especially with the fact that he was using 4 lightsabers. That was like really cool. And you also got like the big lightsaber duel of the movie that's been like the most best part of like this entire movie and prequel trilogy to an extent, the Anakin versus Obi-Wan fight. Like, I just really liked how they went ahead and handled that duel and how it basically ended, and basically setting up how Anakin would get that Darth Vader suit. And yeah, I just really like that Anakin versus Obi-Wan fight, and might just be one of my favorite lightsaber duels of the entire Star Wars franchise. But coming from someone who is like a casual fan of Star Wars, because I don't go into deep diving everything on the Star Wars lore, I think that this is a really good movie and definitely is up there with like the best of the franchise. And I do think that this is better than The Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi. And I do like those movies, but I just feel like Revenge of the Sith was better than Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. But there are just like 2 things that I just didn't like about the movie, and they're just minor nitpicks. So let's just get into those cons. Starting off, there is kind of like some slower moments, but they're just really just a little bit of slower moments. Like after the starship battle from the beginning, towards like whenever Obi-Wan is going after General Grievous and Yoda goes to the Wookiee planet, I just feel like that was kind of like a little bit slow, but that was just really it in terms of like the slower moments. I felt like that the rest of the movie was just engaging and entertaining. And the other con I have is more of a personal preference for me, is I feel like that they should have kept the Obi-Wan and Anakin battle separate from like the Darth Sidious and Yoda battle. What I mean is they cut in between the battles to show Darth Sidious versus Yoda, and then they cut to Anakin versus Obi-Wan. Like I felt like that they should have kept those two fights in its entirety and not cut in between them. Like that's just my personal preference on those. But even with those two cons, I still consider those minor nitpicks because this is just a really good movie. And yeah, I definitely think it is one of the best of the franchise. And yeah, this is definitely hands down the best of the prequel trilogy. So for my scorecard, I'm gonna give Star Wars Revenge of the Sith 4 stars, with the score out of 10 being 8 out of 10, with the percentage being 80%, with a grade of B-, with my final verdict being the best film of the prequel trilogy. But that was my review for Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. Apologies as well for not having the Tin and Cup for Revenge of the Sith re-release. They didn't have them, at least where I went. But it did not stop me though, however, from getting the Thunderbolts Tin and Cup combo early. And funny enough, this is the next movie that I'm going to be reviewing, so stay tuned next week for my Thunderbolts review, whenever that comes out. But also go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below your thoughts on Revenge of the Sith. And I will see you in the next video, and have a great day.